bit of a mining focus for the next 10 minutes. The Department of Mineral Resources has transferred the rights for the Tau Lekoa gold mine from AngloGold Ashanti to Buffelsfontein, which is owned by Simmer & Jack. We also take a look at mine safety in light of the directive issued by the mining inspector in the Northwest Province last week. Join me in studio to chat about all this are Simmer & Jack CEO Nico Schoeman and Lesiba Seshoka from the National Union of Mineworkers. Gents, thanks very much for coming in today. Nico, I'm going to start with you. You were in studio about 3 weeks ago when your results came out. We were chatting about Tau Lekoa. That was one of the subjects. Is it a turning point for the company, you're saying, in today's commentary? How so?
Yeah, most certainly. I mean, it's pretty much a transaction that is basically positioning Simmers from a strategic point of view, whereby we are now in a position where securing Tau Lekoa. We now have an asset that can generate free cash flow virtually from the outset.
So without Tau Lekoa, would the company not have been a going concern into the future?
It certainly would have been, but it would have been a lot more difficult. What is equally important, other than the fact that Tau Lekoa adds free cash flow, is also what it does for the risk profile of Buffelsfontein gold mine. It also creates the opportunity for Buffelsfontein and Tau Lekoa to share in the cost structure. And we're targeting 100 million saving over the next 12 months.
Of course, costs at Buffelsfontein are quite high. The cash cost currently around $1,050 an ounce. How will Tau Lekoa bring that down?
Look, it's certainly in terms of the resource base. We are sharing resources, especially in terms of the corporate, but also at operational level, also the metallurgical processing cost. And suddenly you've now got two operations whereby the cost structure is shared by a much larger ounce base, and hence contributing significantly to restoring Buffelsfontein to profitability.
And of course, you're going to be processing ore from Tau Lekoa through Buffelsfontein. Do they have similar grades of ore?
Buffelsfontein is slightly higher at this stage in terms of our forecasts. We're aiming to achieve recovered grades of in excess of 4 grams per tonne at Buffels, whereby Tau Lekoa has been consistently running over the last few years in the region of 3.5 grams per tonne.
You said it will turn Buffelsfontein profitable. How soon?
The previous forecast that we've made, that we said we expect to make the turn in the third and fourth quarter, so that we're certainly still on track for that.
Mm-hmm. What sort of gold price, though, do you need to sustain these mines?
At Buffelsfontein, the gold price that we're using in terms of making the operations work is we're looking at 265,000 per kilogram, and that's basically our operations are set up to aim to achieve that in terms of a break-even number.
Of course, these mines are old mines. Tau Lekoa you're buying from AngloGold Ashanti, it didn't want it anymore. What's the investment case for Simmer & Jack with Tau Lekoa on board?
Look, it certainly puts us in a position whereby if we get into a position where the operations start generating free cash, we can sort of limit the need to have to go to sort of external funding sources in terms of funding internal growth prospects.
Of course, you do say in the commentary today that this will take you from being a relatively junior miner into the fourth biggest gold producer in South Africa. Do you think that investors will then be sitting up and taking notice and investing in you?
We've certainly, in the morning, we've seen a recovery in the share price. However, I believe that Simmers unfortunately have got the legacy of underperforming, and until such time that we start convincing the market that we can produce the goods, then I think then only will we start seeing the real positive results in the recovery in the share price.
Of course, Buffelsfontein has been hit recently by safety stoppages, costing you 50 million rand in revenue last year. So safety is a concern, obviously, at the mines. How do you see it going forward? I mean, obviously, you have to do what you can to make it as safe as possible.
Yeah, most definitely. And post the fatality that we had on the 4th of May, we have also, as a board, decided that we need to significantly invest in the operations at Buffelsfontein in particular, whereby the board approved an additional 12 million just for safety for this year. We have also subsequently implemented a safety plan, whereby in terms of post visits that we've had from the DMR, we have significantly reduced the number of safety stoppages issued by the DMR. So we at this stage very confident that the plan that we're implementing, the safety plan, is starting to pay off.
Let's bring Lesiba in here. Lesiba, are companies like Simmer & Jack doing enough for safety on their mines?
Well, in general, our view is that when there are actually some companies that are doing their bit and they have seen a significant improvement in safety, but there's a whole lot of them that are not doing sufficiently. And we believe that they cannot pay lip service to the issue of safety. We really need to see them financing their safety initiatives in buying more safety equipment and ensuring that their workforce is safe. If you look at the mine safety audit that was conducted by the Department of Mineral Resources 3 years ago, it actually indicated that 64% of the companies are adhering to safety regulations, but a whole lot of them are not doing it.
So you're encouraged by what Nico is saying is happening at Simmer and Jack?
I'm actually encouraging it and saying that they must do even much more to ensure that they actually do more investment in those safety lines. But clearly, as you hear him saying, they've seen an improvement as a result of investing in safety, and we believe that more companies can do the same.
Of course, there was some consternation in the mining industry this week after the Northwest Mines inspector issued a directive on board and pillar mining, and this followed 5 fatalities at Aquarius Platinum recently. Are the authorities being strict enough on mine safety in your view?
Well, as far as we are concerned, we don't think that the Department of Mineral Resources is doing sufficient enough to ensure that the mines are adhering to safety regulations. Firstly, if you look at that, Aquarius is seen that as a punishment to them, but we are saying they can actually, do stiffer measures, put stiffer measures in place to ensure that they adhere to safety regulations. And if they do, then the Department of Mineral Resources can actually lift some of the punishment that they have put on companies like that. But to kill people willy-nilly, as we have seen in the past week, is really is totally unacceptable.
Well, what's the balance? And of course, you cannot put a price on human lives, but with safety stoppages, mines become unprofitable, may have to close down, workers might have to be retrenched, and the mining industry is still one of our biggest employers, Lesiba.
We are saying in mining, what you need to do, like in all management, you need to have a balanced scorecard. You balance your production, your safety, and all other aspects. And if you do that, you are going to see much more productivity. You are going to minimize your Section 54 notices, and therefore there will be no work stoppages at all. And that's what is important to us. If you show us that there's a balance, then that's good. But if you are saying to us that productivity is all you can do, and that's all, then we'll have a problem.
Do you have a balanced scorecard at this stage, Nico? Have you achieved that balance yet, or is it still something you're working towards?
No, most certainly it's a fairly new initiative. We certainly support Lesiba's view in that if we focus on safety, we also believe that it will contribute towards seeing improved production results. And certainly in terms of the initiatives that we've put forward, as I said, we've seen the results of that, but it's certainly an ongoing process of improvement.
And obviously it's a cost saver, I would think, in the long run, because if you look at that safety stoppage, which cost you 50 million in revenue at Buffelsfontein, had more been invested prior to that, perhaps you wouldn't have had to have that safety stoppage.
Most definitely. I think there's 2 elements to it. The one is, as Lesiba put it, there's an element of physical investment in safety measures, whereby at the moment a lot of our focus is actually focused on the human element, whereby we need to ensure that there's buy-in from employees at all levels, that safety becomes a culture. And that will obviously significantly contribute to us in improving our safety statistics, not only in Simmers, but in the industry as a whole.
And of course, Lesiba, the ultimate aim must be to have 0 fatalities, I'm quite sure. How far are we from that?
Well, we're still miles away from 0 fatality. In fact, we were quite surprised by the Chamber of Mines when they say that they have done all they can, and now they have made sufficient progress. And we are asking a question. When 70 mine workers have lost their lives since January, is that progress?
Is this something that you constructively take to mining companies where your members are represented?
We have said previously in the past week, and we have said, and we continue to say, that if you don't want to mine safely, we are going to take war onto your operations. And we do not want to do that because we will be inflicting pain on our workers who really want to make a living. But unfortunately, if we were to choose between life and ensuring that we are unemployed, we'll choose unemployment.
Gents, we have to leave there. We're out of time. Thank you both very much for coming in today.